How's it going? How's it going? What's interesting is I can hear the music through the stream, but I can't hear it on my end. But that works for me. Figure out how I want to set this up. I think I got everything good to go. Hope everybody had a good week, having a good session today. We've had an interesting week, a lot of selling, or we've doing what a lot of people have been waiting for, and our wholesaler is taking full advantage of that. So what I've seen so far today is we had a pivot from last week that I've been looking at below 1200, and also this week this was the contract rollover for the futures for the futures index, as well as the currencies. And I think crude just rolled over too last night, right, for today's session. So we got that going on, and then we're showing a lot of people a lot of sell-off, and we're using that as wholesale. Well, wholesale is using that to collect some inventory, to do what they're trying to do. So we had that pivot that we broke below at today's session. The pivot from last week at the open of today's session, we broke below it. I would say we spent most of today's session before the open, collecting inventory. Had a little bit of sell-off right at the open. We got rid of some of that supply at the open. Dipped below that, got everybody excited, brought some new selling in, so that we can collect some more inventory. Let go a little bit of that about a few minutes ago, around 9:40-ish. And now we're just working it again. So we're just working this whole sentiment that's been shared across the market as of late. So right now we're looking at the inventory collection point of 805. Holding supply at 830, which was our session low. I only had a couple executions that gave me some really decent results. Just being aware of wholesale and just trying to basically being an affiliate for wholesale. Because we're going to stay with that narrative. course, this kind of price action has got us, a lot of people talking about squeezes and getting caught in traps and all this stuff. And for wholesale, you know, that's building a liquidity so that they can move their inventory and they can, you know, distribute the way that they want to. So I think that's why it's like, for me, that's why it's been so valuable to look at this from a wholesale perspective in terms of, you know, how I'm viewing what the market is doing outside of myself, so to speak. So that inventory at around 804 is still holding up. We're still collecting inventory down there. Back into supply. Holding our supply point. And we're just working this. We set up shop down here between, let's just call it, it's for simplicity, 800 and 835. Starting to see a little bit of markup right there around 816. Around the mechanics, that's some automation. I briefly mentioned it before, but if we're looking at this and we want to know how can we benefit from this? And well, so I think the best way to look at it is, it's gonna, you know, it's all subjective, but I think the best way to look at it is, well, how can I support wholesale and basically be an affiliate for wholesale? So it's like if there's a company that I like and they sell things that I like and they have an affiliate program that allows me to help them make sales, and then I get a commission for that sale. I kind of look at this the same way, to where I see what wholesale is doing. I don't have their full playbook, of course, but I can understand. I got the overall thesis of what they're trying to do. So then I try to position myself to where, you know, I'm sort of being an affiliate for wholesale and getting in where they're trying to, are making trading decisions based off of where they, you know, they tend to move price. Challenger, your counterpart to the trade. So that's an interesting reaction right there at 816. Could possibly looking for, this could be this possibly could be a setup to look for more discounts. Movement has become somewhat mechanical. Slightly pushing the inventory lower, finding new low prices. A little bit of budget balancing right there, a little bit of budgeting there. Let's go grab some more inventory. feel like they really want to push it now. What's happening, Wes? All right, we're going on a supply run. Right back to the mechanics. Got some automated selling going on at this point. We're still inside of this phase that I call a discount phase. And that's just relative to where our previous supply was. Above 830. We're still budgeting. Expanded our automation a little bit. Current collection point has dropped down to around 793. See what happens when we get back down there. Do we continue to look for discounts in a budgeting fashion? Or we just really do we really go and out and look for lower prices? Well, back inside of the range briefly. We're still budgeting. Working our inventory, or picking up some inventory, quickly selling some off at supply. So there's two scenarios that I can see from this this little period that we're in right now. One is to where we're building our budget for discounts at deeper prices. And once we finally finish working these orders in this area right here, then we'll go and try to find value lower for that scenario. Another scenario is that we're slowly just building our inventory. So when we're ready to do what I call go to market, which is when we start catching momentum long, then we have plenty of inventory to sell at supply. Yeah, both of those could play out. And typically they do play out usually, but it could be either way. You can either have where we go on a quick inventory run, finding value at much lower prices. Then they build their inventory down there. Could be they could take their time with it, or they can do it quickly with their budget that they raised from their budgeting phase. That I'm just calling that a budgeting phase, and then we'll take that inventory and we'll run to market with it. Or they can collect the inventory taking the market real quick, hang out, set up shop for a while, and then they'll budget at higher prices to just take it right back down. And we got a little bit of volatility in there. I wasn't tracking anything that they would be using to get the market excited. But it is right on time at 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock is one of those key times where you see a volatility boost. There's certain times where the market kind of shifts energy. One is at 10, the others is at 10:30. Then you kind of just have this variation phase between that 10:30 and after, in the lunchtime, going off of, Eastern time, the New York Stock Exchange time. Almost as if it's pre-programmed. So that boost of energy, or excitement, it's allowed us to get some of this inventory off, get some of the supply off, but we're not really going out on an all-out sale yet. What I would call a clearance. Maintaining the wholesale perspective. Still just working our inventory. Volume is relatively high, especially for this first hour of the New York Stock Exchange. For lately, we've had decent volume overnight, but then things slow down for the first 30 minutes to an hour. And for the retail trader, it really challenges their psychology and their skill and all that stuff. If I was to put a label on what this price action here, we can go with, this is like some food truck price action where our business is mobile. We're setting up shops at certain points, but then we're keeping it moving. We're not brick and mortaring it. We're not just hanging out in one range, but we do have little ranges where we're serving our market. So if you haven't noticed by now, as you know, if you've been following my whole narrative around wholesale is a perma bull type of perspective to where, well, we benefit in both directions. So while it's buy low, sell high, we also profit when prices drop. Yep, that's part of budgeting. Raise our supply point to 835-ish. It's created a new inventory point at 825. So we're marking up price as we stay mobile, as we keep the food truck going. So as I'm watching this, I'm thinking I need to incorporate this power range inside of the wholesale narrative as well. Because I've been watching, how long have I been watching this power range thing? I think since, it's been a while. It's been a couple of years, I think. And it is significant. For me personally, it's been more significant than any other indicator that I've ever used. And I've played around with a lot of indicators, throughout since I started trading. Say that, see we're holding supply right there off of PR -1. To give a quick little, just on the surface, this whole power range concept would be this around the same reason that a business would give attention to human psychology in terms of how they market and how they maybe set up their stores and how they conduct their business. that PR -1 served as a good point for them to start really letting go of some supply and looking for value at lower prices, but previous prices where we found inventory before, because we came right back inside of that 825 to 820 inventory range and picked up some more inventory. If we were able to find inventory there before, we probably can find it there again, and the same thing on the reverse side. The same thing with supply. So below 820 is going to be a key point to watch to see what our wholesaler is trying to do. That last supply point was a mechanical response, so we've inserted automation, and we're holding on to automation right at, around 830. As we can see price responding to that area every time we get there. Removed automation. So that was a real quick inventory pickup before now we're running to market. Pause for a minute. We found some inventory at 850. Back on the run. So this kind of price action puts us out of balance. Eventually we will have to find balance again, but that's whenever wholesale decides. We just have to wait for them to make that decision.
It's funny you say it like sorry, I'm kind of coming to the end of this cold ride. And it seems like it's more of the coughing as it gets to the end for me. So it's one of the reasons I've been on mute. But I had to come in following the sequence of events that took place, and then your narration, man. You should be very proud of just how far you've come in your journey. This is incredible, just from my perspective of watching you through the years. And that power range, you've been using that at least 2 years, definitely since the beginning we first met. But what I wanted to talk about was that movement. You described it as now the market has went on balance. I find that so interesting, so freaking interesting, considering all of the narration that you've been doing till it coming to that, and then you identifying that as unbalanced. What if I were to say it just went into balance actually? and now we're waiting to see an organic response as the books have now just been balanced. Market can produce.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see what you mean by that.
And the only reason I say it from that perspective, and I feel confident taking the other side, is because I've been part of the sequence, I would argue, since the beginning when it first started as a trigger for the predator. And the predator being you're describing as our wholesalers. See, our wholesalers, I would say, make up and let me know what you think about this. They would make up a segment of the market where you could give them the label of a wholesaler, right? So there's going to be a lot of different participants in there but they're moving in the same frequency where you can just label them a wholesaler. Well, what I am seeing is part of this wholesaler frequency. There's because they're doing this business every single day, it's almost like because 1 + 1 = 2, right? Keep that in mind. Anyways, because it is, there are things that because they happen, I have to be there because that's part of my job every single day. So when these triggers happen, they can all see this, right? But what happens when volume is declining? We don't have the participation that we need. And you described it as, this is exactly how you described it as, we quickly reposition, right? We throw, I think what you say, you said it as, I'm throwing inventory into the market to see how did you just go ahead, if you could just quickly summarize your perspective on that opening move, those two sequences.
Somebody
that
at
the
our
action
at our
the open.
9:30 open.
Yeah.
Let's see. So I think what I was saying. Let me look at. Yeah. So we had this point of where we were collecting inventory over, just overnight. Let's just call it overnight, and we needed to dump some of that so we can go to the next phase, to the next sequence. So we had a quick dump of inventory at supply right before we went into the next phase of collecting inventory at lower prices, found the value lower.
So part of that dump, there was two things that happened with that movement, where I'm just bringing boom, 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 I got inventory to the market, it raises price. It forces people who are in the opposite position to now react. And believe it or not, the person who's in the what I would describe as wholesale, from your perspective too, you would be saying that wholesale is doing this. So it would appear that there is, and then there could also be the argument there is the same energy. But what we are doing is we're describing the two forces that have to be here in order for the game to exist. So we'll say that there is this seller force that's triggered in before the open. And in this force, everybody who, feels to that energy, they're clicking and they're now part of that inventory to the market too now. So if I'm having to, and I'm the counterparty to all of this, and we've got the open, I heard it said, interestingly, it was yesterday, these guys in there talking, they said the open is only really used, this is their perspective, the open is only really used to get volume. All right, so now the open is coming, and now the volume that I'm going to get is going to be coming in to clip that. And the reason it's going to come in to clip that most likely is because that's going to be where the liquidity is. So if I've got everybody coming in short before the open, right, and I'm looking, and my position is I only participate for the open. So where liquidity lies is now squeezing out those shorts, which are now part of that liquidity that we're grabbing for the open. And that's a very predatory perspective of it, but regardless enough, this is the price action that we're seeing. As that order that you described comes through, what it does is two things. I've now clipped over, so depending on how you manage risk, when you exit that trade, that money is now leaving your account and coming to the market. And there's a whole frequency of participants who are interpreting, quantifying, and already expecting that to happen, and are measuring the degrees of this happening. All right, so as this volume's coming in on the open and it's clipping out these shorts and they're all reacting, responding, there's going to be others who are like, thank God this is coming in, because now I can really get out of my position. Which is what we're talking about, this predator, the actual one who knows what's happening on both sides. You know, they can actually see this because they are the books, you see. Now when these buyers come in, right, and this now becomes a trigger for some to now buy. But no, you're now part of a game that you needed to recognize from the beginning before you take the move, or else you're part of a trigger. That's why it's very important for you to define the act of your movements. You've already got your plan, and now the market comes into your plan and you go into your acts and your movements. So that concept, man, that's why it's so important. So let me just bring us present really, because what just took place on the open is a mechanism that really displays the degrees to which this market is evolving. Okay. So because, you know, where we were with that narrative, that story is now as buyers are coming in, part of it just being part of the design. This is the program. All of this action right now from the start was a program. It wasn't anything other than that. And the program had two parts. So the first part is to squeeze out all of these holding the shorts who don't recognize exactly to the space that they're in from whatever degree they're participating in. Because if you are recognizing you're seeing this and you just suggest, or you take advantage of it, which is what took place, the actual person in this position or being or frequency representing this position. Because what they did is they took all the volume that came in on the bid, the buyers, and they got to see the liquidity, quantify, and then lean on it. Now I'm gonna eat this. I'm gonna eat it. I'm gonna take the other side of this trade. And then because it really is a battle, and we're coming now to the few, our giants, because there's a status quo battle that's being fought, I would argue, here on Earth. And we get to see this take place with price, believe it or not. That's why I say the markets are just like the Matrix code, literally. Anyways, with all this being said, there's a response to that. And that brings us to this move that that I came in on, because you were describing it as now the market has gone out of balance. And I would say actually it just went into balance because of all of this that took place. So where am I in this move? Screw all that. That doesn't matter. Let's finish the narrative. What happens next, I think, is the most profound. Is because actually I already described it. I would just be going in deeper. So we get the splash that comes down. So now our participant on the offer, taking advantage of all of this, has got repositioned now. They've got value, and they just lean on it because now everyone else is trapped. And you know how everyone else is trapped? You can see this by no one moves when you're trapped. When you're trapped, okay, you're not gonna move. You know why? Because I have you in a fucking trap. And you can measure the degrees of these traps by the lack of participants as time moves. Okay? And then as time moves forward and participation is declining, then you get to see our predator who's moving price get to kind of, now it's like, I don't want to get too deep in the metaphors, but really the point that I want to get into is just providing a narrative to the degrees that the battles are being fought today. And I had to step in and say that what we just saw was a fight to get into balance. It was a fight to get into balance because I'm always holding risk to this game, and it's getting more risky. One, because it's getting way more competitive. People are becoming more aware. At the same time, I would say there's a very obvious dumbing down. Because there's a very obvious dumbing down, there's a very obvious opposite to that. And people are becoming smarter. All right, the very best of us are becoming sharper, okay? And that's being reflected into the market. So all this dumbed down trigger happy participating, all of that just becomes puppeteering for a larger game. And what is needed is, like you said, we've got to get into balance, whether we see it as balance or imbalance. It doesn't matter, actually.
Right.
Whether I'm seeing it as balance or you're seeing it as imbalance, it doesn't matter. The point is that we're right there to see it. And however we see it, based on our truth, okay, you got to be honest with yourself to get to that level. Then you'll be able to know how to move, right? And the only way you can know how to move with anything, you got to watch. You need to watch, you need to experience, and you need to be honest with yourself. When you then reflect and you say, well, how can I be part of this act? What's going to be my movement? All right, that's all I'm going to say. But that's it. Great show so far.
Yeah, good stuff, man. Good stuff. And then, like whatever perspective you hold, whether that's balance, imbalance, or however you see it, whatever it is, it's all it matters from introspection. So whatever works based off of how you see whatever it is that you see. So that's why I think it's like really important to remove the whole good bad notion of what's happening, no matter what you're looking at, and just become neutral in that environment and just operate off your truth. But like you said, you got to be honest with yourself before you can even get to that level.
And let me speak to that just quickly, because I even feel like with the time that we're in now, maybe that even needs to be broken down. What does it mean to be honest with yourself? Because there was a point, I would say, if I'm being honest, it's early on, but there still was a point to where I didn't really know what it meant to be honest with myself. And then that can be fucking scary. It can be really scary to not know what even being honest with yourself or this honesty with self means. And if you're starting from that point, man, I'm gonna say, if you're starting from that point listening to this and then you're moving forward in fear, making actions, because if you're in that state where you don't know what even that means, well, you've got to still move, but in that movement there's a degree and level of responsibility that you have to hold. I have to hold, not knowing what it means in this moment that I am, where I need to be honest. What does that mean? You're gonna feel it, you're gonna know this moment, so you need to be conscious, present, aware of this moment, the responsibility, and realize that you're gonna have to make a choice where you don't know. But check this out, regardless of whatever you choose, all the secrets of this reality, I'm gonna be honest with you, because I've been looking for them, they really sum up to say, it is you. So if you choose with the intent of honesty, not knowing what it is, it's gonna lead you down the path to where you will find what honesty is, who you are, that you're honest with, so that you can move forward in time, okay? But it all is a practice that you first have to take, and it's always coming down to these choices. But it's not even about the choice, okay? It's about being aware that there's a choice, holding the responsibility that you're making the choice, and moving forward with it, okay? What I'm recognizing is that it's like fucking hot potato and whack-a-mole, like the state of consciousness with people. We're here for a minute, but then we're gone. Like, what the fuck? You need to hold the frequency if you want to find consistency. All right, now I'm done.
I mean, it was something that you said in there around you not. I tried to hold on to it, but I might clip that out and post that somewhere. But the part in that of trying to, of being honest with yourself, if you're at that beginning stage, for me, I really started to let's just call it evolve once I started really questioning everything and the things that I believed in the most at that point. When I even question that, it's like, well, what am I missing in this? It's not it again. Well, back then it was about, well, where am I wrong? But it's not really about wrong or right. But you got to understand that for everything, there's at least two. And so for whatever perspective that you hold, there's another perspective, and then there's everything in between. So it's it's admitting that you don't know really, and you just gotta question everything that you believe in, and that's the scary part, because now you're questioning yourself, and you're putting doubt into yourself almost. And who wants to do that? That's not a comfortable feeling. That's a scary thing to do, because nobody really wants to be wrong. But if you're at that starting point, the main thing is you just got to start questioning stuff. You got to start questioning whatever you believe in to find your truth, and how are you really being honest with yourself? That's the beginning, from in my opinion. Go ahead.
I really should talk, because if I start talking, I'm gonna not talk. That's what I'm gonna practice, the discipline of just sitting back and letting it flow out. So you keep doing that.
So that's all I have from that. But so let's get back to the market. So our wholesaler has been just setting up shop here between let's call it 875 and 840ish. And now we're trying to we're building more participation. We're testing the market. We're trying to see how it's really, because they already know to a certain degree. And we're trying to what the participation that we see that's possible up there. Well, how serious are they? Because you can see the customers come in. You can see that they're outside and they're waiting to come in, but you don't really know if when they come into your store if they're going to buy anything, right? So you got to put your inventory out there. You got to put what you have for sale out there, your supply out there, and to see if they're willing to buy. And then that's what kind of, in my opinion, creates this little action that we saw here, that I'm looking at, because it's from the perspective that I'm looking at on the chart, where we broke out of that range where we set up shop, but we didn't go straight away. We put out our supply, sold off some of the supply, and then we came back in, and now we're slowly just moving out. And we're still holding that frequency where we're testing the market, getting rid of some supply. We're budgeting based off of what we see. And we're back conducting mobile business. And then going back to the power range, now we see that response off the PR low, similar to what we witnessed once we came into PR -1. With that, we're kind of holding that as a supply point, a new supply point. And I will be watching that to see what wholesale thinks about it. And we're picking up inventory at 880. So on that note, I think it's a good time to bring the session to an end. for what my session to an end. And I'm gonna end the stream right here. Good talk, Origin, as always, and appreciate everybody for coming through. Hope everybody have a good weekend. And I'll see you Monday. Trade it easy.